We are breaking down the deeply fascinating and highly misunderstood aftermath of one of the most explosive reality television moments of the last decade. Imagine stepping onto the massive, brightly lit stage of America's Got Talent at a highly vulnerable age, clutching a simple acoustic guitar and delivering a completely original, fiercely authentic song called Misfits. The profoundly emotional performance instantly forced celebrity guest Judge Brad Paisley to violently smash the highly coveted Golden Buzzer, sending a massive explosion of glittering confetti raining down upon the young artist. For a brief, highly concentrated moment in modern television history, Sophie Pecora was the absolute undisputed center of the commercial entertainment universe. She completely captured the shattered hearts of millions of dedicated viewers who deeply resonated with her incredibly raw, highly poetic storytelling about navigating severe social isolation. However, as is incredibly common within the notoriously toxic, highly predatory machinery of traditional reality television, the intense mainstream media spotlight eventually shifted, and the young acoustic prodigy seemingly entirely vanished from the commercial airwaves. This sudden, deafening silence left a massive, highly dedicated global fanbase desperately wondering exactly what happened to the quiet, highly misunderstood teenager who bravely sang about her internal pain on national television. Did she completely fall victim to the highly cynical, deeply crushing nature of the traditional commercial music industry? Or did she deliberately step away from the blinding Hollywood lights to secretly build something infinitely more powerful entirely in the dark? Our intensive investigation into her current life in the year 2026 reveals an absolutely staggering reality that the mainstream media has completely ignored. She did not simply fade into absolute obscurity. She completely took absolute control of her own massive destiny, actively rejecting the traditional corporate pathways to brilliantly forge her own highly independent, incredibly lucrative musical empire. To truly comprehend the massive, unprecedented scale of her incredibly successful independent music career today, our investigation must absolutely first examine the deeply complex, highly overwhelming psychological isolation she faced during her earliest formative years. Long before she was universally recognized as a brilliant acoustic guitar prodigy, standing on a massive reality television stage, Sophie was just a highly anxious young kid, desperately attempting to figure out exactly how to safely exist within an incredibly loud, highly overwhelming world. She has openly admitted that she was always significantly more of an introvert than an extrovert, constantly struggling with the heavy, isolating feeling that she simply did not fit in with the people around her. She found it incredibly difficult to share her true emotions or be deeply vulnerable with others, making it much more comfortable to completely keep her heavy feelings locked safely inside. However, at just 9 years old, she miraculously discovered an incredibly unique, highly unexpected psychological escape route. While most young children her exact age were actively consuming standard, highly manufactured bubblegum pop music, she aggressively turned to songwriting, and her very first serious attempt at a song was actually explicitly grounded in the deeply complex rhythms of rap music. Actively transforming her intense feelings of social isolation and heavy emotional anxiety into sharply written spoken word poetry and highly rhythmic lyrics, rapidly became her absolute ultimate coping mechanism. She started teaching herself how to play the acoustic guitar at age 9, and subsequently picked up the piano at age 10, utilizing these instruments to completely forcefully process the incredibly dark, deeply complicated emotions she could never bravely speak aloud in normal conversation. Even today, she frequently has to reassure highly concerned fans that despite the deeply sad, heavily emotional themes explored in her original lyrics, she is actually a genuinely happy person who simply loves to dig deep into complex storytelling to ensure her listeners never feel completely alone in their dark struggles. While the heavily manufactured, deeply cynical narrative of reality television often desperately attempts to paint a highly misleading picture of sudden, overnight success, completely handed out by generous corporate executives. Our deep dive into her actual professional history reveals an entirely different, incredibly gritty reality. Long before the massive, multi-million-dollar television cameras ever started actively rolling, she was already heavily engaged in a highly brutal, deeply exhausting professional grind that the traditional television producers completely glossed over. At just 14 years old, she was actively dragging her heavy musical gear directly out to the incredibly crowded, highly competitive public spaces of Venice Beach, eventually establishing herself as a highly dedicated, regular street performer at the notoriously busy Pier 39 in San Francisco. She willingly spent countless, incredibly grueling hours actively battling the massive, overwhelming noise of aggressive tourists, loud street vendors, and crashing ocean waves, just to desperately get completely random strangers to simply stop walking and actually listen to her completely original music. That deeply relentless, highly intimidating street-level musical hustle successfully actively built a massive, incredibly thick layer of psychological armor that most highly sheltered child stars absolutely never properly develop in their entire careers. This intense dedication to conquering her massive stage fright eventually led to a completely bizarre, highly intensive vocal training method during her time on America's Got Talent. A professional vocal coach on the massive television production explicitly advised her that many professional singers actively get onto a moving treadmill, start heavily physically running, and aggressively sing their lyrics at the exact same time. This highly intense, deeply demanding physical cardiovascular training was specifically meticulously designed to heavily artificially stabilize highly fragile vocal cords and completely actively prevent a singer's unique voice from violently shaking when massive, deep-seated internal nerves inevitably take over on a high-pressure stage. Successfully surviving the incredibly toxic, highly pressurized atmosphere of immense digital fame actively requires a completely unorthodox, fiercely disciplined approach to long-term mental health, especially after actively walking away from the highly restrictive traditional entertainment machine. As her massive independent audience rapidly swelled into the millions across various global social media platforms, she actively began to completely loudly prioritize her absolute psychological well-being over highly superficial commercial metrics. Today, in 2026, she brilliantly actively maintains an incredibly strict, highly protective daily mental health routine that keeps her completely grounded in reality. She naturally wakes up around 7 o'clock every single morning, instantly reaching for a dedicated gratitude journal to meticulously write down 3 specific things she is deeply thankful for, alongside a highly positive daily affirmation. She aggressively follows this highly positive mental grounding with a deeply relaxing daily meditation session and heavily consumes non-fiction literature, primarily focusing on deep self-help and complex spirituality books that actively nourish her artistic soul. This profound, highly necessary dedication to preserving her absolute psychological well-being has successfully paved the completely highly unobstructed way for an absolute, completely undeniable massive explosion of independent musical creativity. In a completely massive, highly unprecedented display of sheer, unadulterated artistic work ethic, she has currently written a staggering, highly impressive catalog of over 400 completely original songs. She has completely successfully maintained her fierce artistic momentum by consistently dropping incredibly heavy-hitting, deeply vulnerable tracks completely outside of the traditional corporate radio structures, including her highly celebrated 2025 releases titled Brainless and Aliens. As our special investigative report transitions directly into the absolute peak of her current professional landscape in the summer of 2026, it becomes absolutely, completely undeniably clear that Sophie Pecora has brilliantly executed one of the most incredibly successful independent career survivals in the entire modern music industry. Her massive, undeniable independent talent was formally fully heavily recognized when she officially took home the highly coveted grand prize of the prestigious unsigned-only music competition, absolutely, fiercely, completely, successfully beating out exactly 10,000 highly competitive international entries from 120 different countries. She has completely aggressively utilized that massive competitive momentum to entirely take over the digital music landscape this year. Her 2026 musical era officially aggressively kicked off with the highly anticipated, deeply viral release of a brand new single titled The Quiet Kid, which perfectly actively culminated in her brand new, incredibly highly anticipated massive summer single titled Poker Face, officially released to massive independent fanfare on July 24th, 2026. She currently completely commands an absolutely massive, highly engaged digital army of over 2 million fiercely loyal followers on the highly competitive TikTok platform alone. Furthermore, her top 5 deeply emotional, highly authentic original tracks have successfully organically racked up an absolutely incredible, highly staggering 28 million combined streams on massive global digital platforms like Spotify. The Quiet Kid, who bravely sang about being heavily bullied on national television, has officially aggressively transformed into the absolute ultimate independent boss, completely proving to the entire world that absolute, uncompromising artistic authenticity will always completely outlast the highly disposable hype of traditional reality television.